If you're a dental startup and you're about to open your doors and you're wanting to make sure that you have patients ready and booked, do you run social media ads? Do you run Google ads? What do you do? In this episode, we're going to tackle the difference between the two, what you should do to make sure you set up for success in your dental startup. All right, so in this episode 67 of the Dental Practice Launch podcast, we are going to talk about the difference between social media ads, primarily Facebook and Instagram, versus Google ads. In case you all are just catching this for the first time, I am your host, Shane Simmons. I am the founder of Crimson Media Dental Marketing, where we help dental practices, specifically dental startups, grow through proven online marketing strategies. And today's episode is one that I am really excited about because it's a common question we hear a lot. We get messaged to us, we hear it in Facebook groups, and that is, what's the difference between, Google ads and social media ads, and what should I be running as a dental startup with a more limited budget to start? If you haven't already, though, be sure to subscribe to the Dental Practice Launch podcast. You can find this podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. It's also on YouTube, on our website, crimsonmediagroup.com. But we would love if you would subscribe to this content so we can continue to put more free tips out there. But let's talk about it. So we've helped dozens of startups open over the last several years. And there's always kind of this debate that's happening, I feel like, in some of the social media groups where, this practice owner says, oh, we run social media ads and they work great. This practice says, oh, we ran Google ads. They worked great, or Facebook ads didn't work for us. Social media ads didn't work. Google ads didn't work. You hear it from all ends of the spectrum. And everybody's always looking for what's going to work, right? That's the common question. The short answer of it, I can tell you, is it's a combination of both. Now, certainly there are cases where one platform will work, maybe for 100% of the patients for certain offices, depending on where they're located. And that does skew results a little bit. But what I would say is be careful listening in forums and groups where someone's saying, oh, just do Facebook ads or just do Google ads. Because you really got to look at the type of practice that they have, the person giving that advice. Where are they located? Because I can tell you from experience, if you are in a rural area in the Midwest, in the South, social media ads can absolutely crush it. Like, we've had startups open in more rural areas in the South, the Midwest, places like that, where they've had 300 plus patients on their appointment list for their grand opening, and it's been 100% through social media ads, just because of the way that those communities are, the market. There's less competition, so on and so forth. Whereas a practice that is more in a densely populated area, social media ads may bring 20 or 30 pre-booked appointments. That doesn't mean that it doesn't work. It just means that the market's different. So just be careful. First step is taking advice from people online, because they only know what they know from their market and their type of practice. With us here at Crimson Media, we've worked with practices from coast to coast, from huge metropolitan areas to small town, rural areas. And so we've been able to collect a lot of data and really see what works here. So to go back to my original point of which one performs better, it's a combination of both in most cases. So here's the way to think about this. Social media ads are really geared at getting the word out. Think about your mindset when you are scrolling on Facebook or you're scrolling on Instagram. Are you specifically looking for something when you're scrolling on those platforms, Facebook and Instagram? Probably not. You're probably, well, now it's just kind of a habit for us as a society, where we'll just go and scroll, to get that little dopamine boost. But really what you're doing is you're just kind of scrolling through to see what's going on, right? That's what you are doing on social media. The reason that those platforms are powerful for dental practices, specifically brand new practices that are going to be opening in a few months, or even existing practices, quite frankly, is you can start to show what makes you unique and start to also share a little bit of your personality, the practice's personality. Maybe it's a little bit about the practice coming soon and when you're going to be opening and sharing some highlights there. But what it does is it starts to get the word out about you and your practice and starts helping you become known. And the great thing about social media is it's cheap to advertise on. It's very cheap to advertise on. And also, it's going to learn, if you have your ads set up properly, it's going to learn who's clicking on your ads, who's engaging with it, who's coming to your landing page. And the algorithm is going to start to learn that information and show that ad to those who are most likely to like and engage on your ad. So it's a tool that you got to think of it as a long-term game, right? So think about some of the brands that maybe you really like. Think about, Apple. Think about Nike. Some of these, big brands that are out there. When they're running, TV ads, especially like back in the day when TV ads were more prominent, it wasn't necessarily that they were expecting a direct ROI from that TV ad that week or that month. It was getting their product, their brand in front of an audience to be recognized, to be known, and doing it over and over and over and over again. That's the way that we should look at social media. If you're wanting to attract a really quality patient who is not just looking for a crazy discount deal, but you're looking to establish long-term patient growth, you need to use social media as a way to continue to stay in front of them and make sure that your ads don't look like ads. That's maybe the most important part of this whole process. The number one mistake I see made is people will make an ad. It'll be this graphic with, this free whitening promotion and the stock photo. That looks like an ad. No one, I'm not going to say no one, but most people aren't going to click on that because it looks like an ad. But if you take a photo of you and a patient together smiling, after their first appointment, or picture of you and your team together at the practice, after doing a huddle and kind of showing the camaraderie there, that doesn't look like an ad. That just looks like a regular post. And what that's going to do is that's going to attract more people because it doesn't look like you're trying to sell them on something, but it's also subconsciously going to show your personality and a little bit more about you and your team as people rather than just a dental practice, right? And ultimately, that's what most people are buying when they come to a dental office is, do I feel like I can, know, like, and trust this person? Essentially, they don't know who the best clinician is, right? Most people don't know who the best clinician is. So know, like, and trust. That's the way social media should run. And that's why it's a long-term plan. It's a long-term strategy in most cases, staying omnipresent, building that patient base, building that name in the community, that recognition in the community. And it happens all the time with our offices. They've had ads running for months, years in many cases. People will come up to them and be like, at the grocery store, they'll be at a Kroger or whatever, and be like, hey, you're that dentist I see on Facebook all the time. That's what we want social media to do, is to really stay in front of people, to ultimately, when they do need a dentist, make sure that you are first, top of mind for them to go to. And it's going to make it an easier sell as far as them actually scheduling, because they already feel like they know you a little bit. So that's the power of social media. Google Ads, on the other side, is more of the now. So when you go to Google and you do a search for Google, think about that for a second, your mindset there. We talked about social media. You're more just kind of like mindlessly scrolling through, seeing what's going on. It's not like you're necessarily searching for something specifically. With Google, you're doing a search. You're probably looking to make a purchase or book an appointment, whatever the case is. So that's why Google Ads are also beneficial, because, well, one, social media ads is more of the long-term play. Google Ads is more in the here and now, where we want to get in front of people who are looking for a dentist near me. We are looking for a dentist, a dental emergency or a pediatric dentist or whatever the case is. That's why Google Ads are more expensive, because the intent is higher there. So you're getting in front of people who are more at that bottom, what we call in the marketing world, bottom of funnel. But that can be very beneficial to the practice, because assuming you're targeting the right people, the right keywords, right, using the right ad copy, landing pages, and all these type of things, you can start to get calls in from those ads, relatively soon. Now, it takes a Google ad campaign a few months before we really start to get enough data to really dial it in. So you don't ever just turn on an ad and all of a sudden expect like 30 calls to come in, that week. It just doesn't work that way. It's like anything takes time to build, but you still should be within that first, few weeks starting to get phone calls. And if you have a good marketing partner, like what we do at Crimson Media, we see that data. Where are those conversions coming from? What day a week? What time? What location? What zip codes, that we're targeting? And then we optimize that campaign to focus on those days, times, and areas where we see the highest conversion rates. And ultimately, you get to a point, or you should get to a point, where after a few months, this is how much it costs me to get a new patient opportunity, calling the practice, requesting an appointment, filling out a contact form, whatever the case is. And then this is how much it costs to actually get that patient in the chair. So if for every 3 calls you get from your online marketing, from a Google ad, you book 1, let's say if you pay $100 to get a new patient opportunity, then that's $300 to acquire a patient in the chair if you, on average, book 1 out of 3 of those, right? And if that's like an emergency patient where the average emergency patient, spends $700, you spent $300, they spent $700. And what we find is a lot of times those patients end up, getting put on the hygiene schedule. They've been, put out of pain. You've done a great job with them, showed them, who you all are and how you take care of the patient, make them feel like they've been heard and obviously got them out of pain right away. Then that could become a long-term patient in the practice that could spend, $1,100 a year, is kind of the average in dentistry. So that is really the way to think about the two, social media ads versus Google ads. It's a combination. You want to have a combo because you want to be able to get in front of those patients looking today, certainly. Yes, you're going to pay a bit more for those, but the ROI should still be there for those patients versus social media ads. That's long-term. We want to make sure that we're staying in front of the community. So that way, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months down the road, when people have just seen patient testimonials, your Google reviews, things about you and the team having fun, what the new patient experience is like, they see all of that content over and over and over, and it's time for them to find a new dentist. We want you, your office, to be the first one that they think of because that's all they've seen and heard about over the last several months. So the way that we divvy it up as far as budgeting wise, everybody's going to need to spend a different amount depending on where you're located. That's where, Crimson Media comes in. We can help you kind of figure out that information based on your demographics and where you're located. But if we looked at it as a percentage, usually we put 80 to 85% of the ads budget into Google ads and another, 15 to 20% into the social media ads. Because again, you reach way more people on social media for a lot less. But a lot of those people aren't in the buying stage just yet. We're wanting to nurture those people. So at the end of the day, what works better? Facebook ads, Google ads? If you're doing it right and you're doing it for the long-term build, you should be using a combination of both. And most importantly, don't put all your eggs in one basket as far as one platform or the other. Also, make sure that you're asking for patient referrals, putting a system in place to get patient referrals, doing ground marketing in your community. When we say omnipresence, we don't just mean online. We mean in your community, in person, in your office, online, everywhere you can possibly be. And if you follow those steps in creating this omnipresence in your community, you're going to set your practice up for success. Don't expect it overnight. It's a long-term play if you're wanting to build quality patient base that isn't geared towards crazy discounts and deals. But we've seen it time and time again. If you take the time, you make those investments in the long term, you put the systems in place to build your internal referrals, you're going to have a successful practice and a practice that you enjoy going to work at every single day. That's all for this episode, episode 67 of the Dental Practice Launch Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Like I said, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. We're going to be putting out some great startup stories and tips here over the next several weeks. We want to make sure that you're listening to those and getting some free insights there. And if you're looking for a marketing partner, be sure to go to crimsonmediagroup.com, where we help dental practices grow through proven online marketing and omnipresent strategies. And with that being said, I'm Shane Simmons. See you next time.